Welcome.
Okay, trustees, we are live. We are recording. Phone lines are open. Go for it.
I'd like to welcome everybody to the East Hampton Town Trustees regular meeting of June 12th, 2023. And I'd like to open with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. Allison, could you do roll call, please?
Sure. John Aldred.
Here.
Francis Fox.
Here.
David Cataletto.
Here.
Ken Dollander.
Here.
Tim Garno.
Here.
Susan McGraw-Heber. Here. Bill Taylor. Mike Martinson. Oh, Jim Grimes, I'm sorry, I forgot you.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Me and Ben waited for him. Most an hour, he didn't show up.
Yeah.
I think it's his turn.
Sorry, Jim, I forgot you.
It's okay.
He called or you were?
I did, I called
I
Jim,
called
and
him
then
the
I
next
said,
day. He said, no,
Okay, thank you,
not
Allison.
possibly.
All right, let's open up with public comment. We have Prudence Carabine here tonight, Director of the East Hampton Historical Farm Museum. Prudence,
Where do you want me?
up at the,
Okay.
I'd just like to jump in for a moment before you speak, Prudence, and just let everyone know I posted the information on our website for all of you, and I did send it to you. So I invited Prudence to come in this evening and describe everything that's planned for the coming month. Thank you for coming, Prudence.
You're welcome, Susan. I have Lyme's, so we're together in pain and grief, suffering at this point. So luckily, antibiotics will help me out in the next 10 days, I hope. But I hope you'll feel better too.
Thank you.
I, first of all, want to tell everybody something new that's happened at the Farm Museum, which some of you may have noticed. We, thanks to Micah and Charlie Martyr, got Stuart Vorpal's boat at Christmas, and we lit it up. This is the one that he made, the iron boat. And we were thrilled to have it. 10 days ago, I got a call from Jens Lester. And he said, I want to give you my boat or I'm going to destroy it.
that's the one in front of the museum?
No, this is the one from his backyard.
Okay.
So I said, I'll take it, but I'll probably take grief because we're not a boat storage yard at this point, but I'll take it. And his father was in that boat. He was in that boat. Tom Fields did the whatever in that boat in the 40s and 50s and 60s. And he was going to put rocks in it and put it in the bay because he didn't know what else to do with it. So I have it. Now, I'm not supposed to have it. The Farm Museum is supposed to not be a boat storage place. But this is what I'm saying, okay, because I'm so cute. I'll keep these boats until the Maritime Museum is all prepared to take these boats. And then I'll give those boats to the Maritime Museum, which is where they really belong, not at the Farm Museum. So that's my statement, and I'm sticking to it.
Sounds good.
So a third boat would be very problematic at this point, but I cannot see Jens Lester's boat in the bottom of the bay. So that's kind of where we are with a lot of stuff that comes into the Farm Museum at this point. It's here or the dump. And this leads into the story that we're going to tell on Saturday at the library with, I hope, a lot of people listening to Mary Vorpal, who insists that she can only speak to friends and family. Nobody else should hear her. Only friends and family. So we're going to do it very intimately with chairs around a table. And Arnold Leo says he has a hard time remembering his name, but he remembers 40 years ago and he wants to talk about it now. Because if we waited a year, he wouldn't be able. So we're going to film this for the Farm Museum. LTV is going to film it for the Farm Museum as well as for Bluff Road someday, because Steve Long thinks it would be great as a piece of the men's lives story. And the men's lives story, as we know, was Peter Matheson did a brilliant job of telling us all what happened and how it happened. But 40 years later, there are different stories to tell about what happened during that time and why. And we are all aware as grown-ups that cultures live and die and pass away. But I think of our culture here in East Hampton, between the Montauk's and the Bunnikers and the Freed Blacks, as being a unique experiment in the world that is still working. And one of the things that kept a lot of those people going for generations was the fishing industry. And apparently because we did not have enough voices or enough power or enough money in Congress, the striped bass industry was taken away from us. And there were a lot of subtleties around all of that, which we understand. Striped bass may have been overfished, all kinds of things going on, but the fact is that people could no longer put their boats in the water and go out haul signing. And that was the end of that culture. It wasn't a job for those people. It was a lifestyle for generations. One of my high school friends, Carolyn Lester's brother, you may all know, can sit down and talk bub. He's one of the 7 people in East Hampton who can speak it, Cheryl Dayton among them. And he told us, and this was filmed for Long Island University, that he was taken out on the water by his dad when he was 6 years old. And that's all he knew, was fishing. So please come and share this event where we've got 2 people, compos mentis people, Mary Vorpal and Arnold Leo, who were in the depths of the moving and the shaking and the anxieties that went with trying to be heard as a culture. From Albany to Washington to the main beach and all the beaches around us, and they lost the fight. I did invite Billy Joel. He is in the neighborhood, but I'm doubtful that he would come simply because, as far as Arnold is concerned, it hurt him deeply, what happened. He kind of felt he could do something, but he couldn't make it work for us. So I hope that you will come. I hope you'll pass this around. I think that this is something that needs to be done, needs to be told now 40 years out. And of course, you all know 10 years later, the farming industry went through the same upheaval. But, my family cried all the way to the bank because we had the land. And the fishermen did not have anything. So times change, we all understand that, but we have to celebrate who we are and what we were and who we still are here. Because all the money that's coming into this town is not going to mean anything. I'm trying to keep my language clear here. All the money coming in this town is not going to mean anything if people look around in 10 years and say, what happened to that sweet little town? It's not the way it used to be. I have a present for all of you. I grew up in a family with an iconic grandfather. His name was Ferris Talmadge, and this is his book. And he talks about springs, and he talks about fishing. And he talks about getting on his pony and graduating East Hampton High School in 1914 when it wasn't the thing to do.
Thank you.
And then because he was a pitcher for the Barnacers, and they played Maidstone Club, and Maidstone Club happened to have a member who was the president of Syracuse University, he got offered a baseball scholarship and went to Syracuse University for 4 years and came back as a master farmer. He was connected. He was involved in World War II, development of potatoes, freezing to be sent overseas. He was also a very, very fine man, and I grew up knowing him, and I was blessed. So this book has been for sale at the Farm Museum. I published this book right after he died. A woman named Sally Armbruster did the drawings. The pictures are all of him or his family. And this has now become an iconic book. I can't keep them in the Riverhead Library enough. We're running up there with boxes of them. It's because of the way he speaks. And sometimes you know somebody and their heart by the way they speak. And this man saw the need for preservation, and he saw the need for the community and the land to work better together. He did not see the end of all zoning. Thank you very much for having me come. Thank you. And if you have any questions, I think most of you have my email, or you can get it. Yes, it's on the Farm Museum. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Thank you for this.
You want a book?
I'd love to take a look. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on. We have nothing listed under new business unless somebody has anything new.
Excuse me, just for the record, we have 0 calls on the line. Thank you.
Bruce, do you want to come up and discuss your, please?
The supervisor trying to connect. Was he trying to speak?
Oh, no, that's just that. That's fine.
Good afternoon. Bruce Horwath here on behalf of the applicant at 186 Lily Pond Lane for a Phragmites control project there. So just the background on this is that there are 7 properties around Lily Pond, all of which was ringed with Phragmites when the project started, which is about 3 or 4 years ago. For a couple of reasons, we weren't able to do the permitting at the same time for all 7 properties, so we had to hold off on 186 Lily. So this past fall, I put together the application for that, and what we'd like to do is add that in along with the others as part of a management program of cutting using handheld tools, weed trimmers, and it'd probably be run, for several years, several-year program. The thing that was a little bit more, the thing that was unique about this property is that it was as part of the original lot plot, I guess, or lot subdivision. The village had a requirement that the scenic easement be opened up. This is as you're coming west on Lily Pond Lane, right around when you make the bend, and would be able to see the pond for the first time. That's 186 Lily. It's completely overgrown at this point with Phragmites and some other invasive woody shrubs, honeysuckle and whatnot. So the idea would be to clear that out and then continue the same sort of Phragmites control that we have going in the other places. Jim and I already spoken about this, and he was saying that if the project's approved, that it would not be approved for the cutting to start until the fall, which makes sense. The other projects we're hoping, or the other properties we're hoping to start in on the cutting. These are the renewals. We want to start in on the cutting fairly soon, but this property would be held off until the fall.
Hey, now, Bruce, when you say the other properties, I know you've got open permits out on a couple of these properties. You've done a first cut on them, correct?
Not for this season, as far as I know, but it's been cut, yeah.
You should be up to a first cut by now. I'm
Right.
guessing things are about maybe 2.5 to 3 foot tall. It would be in everybody's interest if you addressed those sooner than later.
Right.
one of the issues that occurs with a lot of these projects is sort of lack of discipline. The Phragmites gets a better foothold every year. If you can keep, we're not telling you how often to cut it. We're not telling you when to cut it. The only time we'll tell you is not to cut it, like right now during nesting season, where you're going to be disrupting a lot of the wildlife in there. Did you have an opportunity to check out the mowed lawn area I mentioned to you?
I did, yeah. I went over there on, I guess it was Saturday, and it was very difficult to know whether or not it's crossing over into the two properties. As far as I can tell, it's right, the cutting stopped right around on the border, but it's without stakes. I'm not sure.
Yeah, the only thing I looked at there when Ben and I visited the property is if that's part of the reserve area, which 186 is, we would ask that the adjacent property owner cease and desist on mowing the lawn. What's going on along the shoreline there is great. I mean, they're doing a really nice job of managing the Phragmites on that property, but it seemed like they had kind of expanded into 186. And like I said, the only issue we had really was cultivating lawn in there.
Right.
Figure out where the property for 186 starts.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Is that a dog leg that
There is, yeah.
Okay, so if it is, we may very well have been looking at their property.
It's also possible it was cut a little bit over the
Okay.
line, but you know,
Either
it
way.
does dog leg down there quite a bit.
Same owner, right?
Yeah.
So is the reason that you wouldn't start cutting till the fall, but you will cut stuff that's been cut now, just to protect any nesting that's going on in the uncut area?
Yeah, primarily. Yeah, the other areas where it's been cut previously, you know, the growth is up about a foot, maybe foot and a half. It should be cut again in terms of Phragmites control. Hopefully, you know, I haven't seen signs of there being nesting, and it's much more sparse than the other area, which is dense and probably does have nests in it.
And I think if, at this point, like for the only thing that could be nesting in that other side might be some geese or that. They're off the nest at this point. The eggs are hatched. They're all off the nest.
Yeah.
So I think we'd be good there. The only thing I had hoped, Bruce, is that we would have gotten your package, the conditions of the subdivision, all the documentation that you forwarded over, distributed to the rest of the board. Will it kill you if we put the vote on this off until our next meeting?
It doesn't now, because we're going to start in the fall. So I'm sorry, tell me again specifically what you're looking for?
Well, I think you already sent it. You sent your copy of your DEC permit.
Right.
You sent the resolution or whatever the documentation that precipitated this from the village. And the only reason we wanted that stuff is just that we can write our permit so that the language aligns with the different agencies. So you have something that's neat and tidy. But I think the project, I think it's a good one. I think it has real merit. I think it will be a benefit to the public, but also what it's going to do is they're in a situation right now where it's not a violation per se, but they haven't lived up to a condition that was agreed upon on the subdivision of this land.
Yeah, and the village actually used that to hold up some of the other permitting on the rest of the properties.
That's probably why they're going through with it
Yeah,
now.
exactly.
Right.
So, but just so I'm clear on what is you're not looking for or are you looking for the village
I think
resolution? Because we have that.
We have all of the information. For whatever reason, it didn't get distributed and didn't find its
Oh,
way
okay,
into the
gotcha.
package here.
Yeah, yeah.
That's all. Okay.
Yeah, no, the next meeting would be
Yeah.
fine.
So
Good. Any other questions?
I think it's a good project. It's really overgrown. It's so overgrown, you don't even notice it when you drive by.
I know.
It's
Yeah,
gonna
you don't
look
even know
nice.
you're at the pond.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna look great when it's all cleared out.
Yeah. Good.
but
Thank
thanks,
you.
Bruce.
Thanks, Bruce. All right. Matt, do we have anybody on the phone?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Old business, 375th anniversary of East Hampton. That got a kickoff this past weekend with it was a nice history fair outside here. We had a booth set up. David was here with some of his students doing some sea shanties,
Yeah.
which were awesome.
Oh, cool. It was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a perfect day, weather and good attendance.
Mhm. So the next event will be our next meeting. Will be at the Meeting House on Main Street.
What's the date of
The date is the 26th. And we're going to start an hour earlier to take advantage of the sunlight.
5:30.
Yep.
Where is that?
It's,
Right next to Clinton Academy, that little building.
Okay.
Okay. So it'll probably be an abbreviated meeting. I'm not sure we can accommodate public comment. We can try, I guess, but
Or is
it's tight in
is
there.
LTV able to,
They're gonna film it.
okay.
It won't be
Well, I
live.
mean, we have such a booming crowd here tonight.
Yeah, I know.
As long as Chris,
But that may draw people.
as long as we can make room for fish.
All right. Shellfish poaching, update on the town code, Chris.
Thanks, Francis.
We all have this in our folder.
I'm going to be meeting with David Lease and the town board at a work session tomorrow, along with David McMaster, to discuss the updated language here regarding poaching. I don't really have anything to add as far as the language is a draft, kind of a crude draft version to be tossed around and hashed out tomorrow at the work session. So looking forward to that and to coming up with sort of a final draft that we can approve, and then and the town can ultimately hold a public hearing on and adopt into law. So we can further protect against poachers, shellfish poachers here in East Hampton.
Looks good.
Did everybody have a chance to read this?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I thought it was, Chris, I think it was a nice job.
Yep.
Thank you.
There's nothing for us to vote on here.
Not tonight,
Back
no.
to this and-
No, I'm going to come back with a final draft after the work session that we can review and vote on.
So would we basically enter our vote, if it's positive, into the public record when the town has the public hearing? Is that how it would work?
I'll discuss that with the
Like
town
they did
tomorrow.
Changes to the mass gathering. They do it the same way.
Hey,
It's not a joke.
it's not. No, it's not. That's another topic that I'd like to discuss with the town at the work session tomorrow on the procedure for approval of town laws and updates to town code that directly affect town trustee holdings. So that's going to be a side note for tomorrow to go over, but maybe we could embark on the procedure in a way that satisfies the trustees with this particular set of codes.
Nice.
Committee reports, education, East Hampton High School Awards tonight, scholarship winner.
Yeah, Susan and I presented a scholarship to Sky Hansing, who presented here, and she helps head the oyster reefs in Accabonac Harbor. And she's going to Harvard, I think for like marine biology or something like that, but really passionate about it. So I think it was $1,500. So,
Yes,
right?
$1,500, yes. And it was a great night and we had a good time. I'm very excited for her. She's really a very unique student. As two of her mentors said, she is the student that everybody as a teacher would like to have. So congratulations to her. Thanks for being there, David.
Yeah, it was good.
Sky is one of the students monitoring the oyster reefs in Accabonac Harbor.
Thanks, Susan.
All right, mosquito larvae counts.
Edwina Vongal and myself did mosquito larvae counts last Tuesday, I think. No, Monday or Tuesday. It was a few days after the full moon. The tide had been very high because the full moon coincided with a northeast blow. We found very few larvae, and they were all very small, stage 1, basically. So as a result of that, because the larvae were found were mainly found on the Merrill Lake Preserve, which is relatively remote from housing. We made the decision to recommend that spraying not take place that cycle. So, sorry?
Where'd you say that was?
Merrill Lake Preserve, sort of mid-harbor on the west side of the harbor. It's a sort of a peninsula that juts out into the harbor. It's kind of north of the Cindy Crane property. It's part of the Talmadge family owned a lot of property there, and that was, I believe that a field that along Accabonac and that marshland and uplands out on the marsh was donated or sold to the town by the family, probably back in the 80s or 90s. And it's managed now by the Nature Conservancy.
Can you throw some waders on and walk out there?
Sorry?
Throw on some waders and walk out there?
Yeah, we do this every moon cycle, full moon and new moon cycle. Anyway, no spraying that cycle, so. Yeah.
Horseshoe crab monitoring.
Tim, you go first.
Slow down for sure. We did not, I didn't have a recapture this cycle. John, did you?
No.
I didn't.
Yeah, so it's definitely petering down. Nothing too exciting, maybe 14 crabs one night.
It was also kind of stormy and windy. The night I went, it was very, very high tide. It really had to walk.
You had to go around on land just to even complete the transect.
It was hard to even see what was in the water.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, June 1st, we counted 85. 35 female, 50 male.
Okay. Then it fell off 2 days later to 11 males and 5 females, and I think you only got 2 males and 2 females.
Yeah, exactly. It's 2 and 2.
It may have been weather related too, partly, but I think you're right. We're probably on the down slope here.
Yeah, I actually, definitely the previous new moon cycle saw more action than we saw, but I think on the 2 nights before the full moon, we had, I think, roughly 500 crabs total. The night of the full moon, we canceled because the water was so high, the turbidity was so bad. It was actually unsafe. I did happen to recover one crab though that had gotten mixed up in some rack and got washed up on the beach. So I got him untangled, put him back in the water. We went back 2 nights after. In total, I think we had 7 recoveries for the entire moon cycle. And I think on the last night, we wound up something like 220, I think was our total numbers. So they were still fairly robust, but they were nowhere near what we saw on the 2 nights before the new moon. We, I think, had somewhere in the 700s on that one. We completed putting out all of our wheat. My wife and I completed putting out all of our tags. So we put out 100 tags this year. We actually, a lot of our recoveries were ones that we know that we had tagged in some previous years, because when we send in the numbers, they typically get back to us and say, well, such and such was tagged this day last year or the year before. And knowing that you're finding other recoveries that are either sequential or close in the numbers, I could just, at a glance go, oh yeah, we tagged
last year.
We tagged that one last year. But it was bizarre last year. We had one night that we had 2 consecutive recoveries from the year before. And obviously and I had kept some notes. These two were in a block that we tagged the previous year, within 100 feet of where we tagged them,
Right back.
where we had originally tagged them. So it's been, listen, it's all pretty cool. The 2 nights before the full, the action was incredible. I should have used up the rest of my tags that night because like right after the high tide, right at Lazy Point, I mean, these things were going at it, and the sperm and stuff was coming out in these big plumes behind, the mating crabs. It was pretty neat.
Cool. Too bad there's not like a chip on the tag so you can see where
That's where they've been.
Yeah, the rest of the year, like where do they
What
go?
do they do?
How far do they go?
Well, I mean, so far, the only recoveries I've had, I think, have all been ones, not like you guys had last year, where you had one that was tagged completely somewhere different. Mine have all been like red, they were
Close,
tagged,
yeah.
they were tagged in the same area. But still a lot of fun. If anybody would like to volunteer to get involved, please feel free to contact our office. Maybe.
Be nice to open up another site or two,
I would love to get a site on the east side of Napeague or even in Lake Montauk, because there's nothing, nothing's being done there. It's not like these things only exist.
You ever walked around the east side of Napeague?
I have, but you know what? One, there isn't easy access there. You have to drive down the beach a ways, and depending, if you're doing this on a new or full moon cycle,
yeah.
and it's high tide, unless you got down there 3 hours before
Can't get down there.
and waited 3 hours to leave, it's kind of hard to do it.
Caught there.
Spend the night.
But we've actually had, it's been very interesting to see, some of the same, it's like old home night, when you come across the same individuals.
Anything else on that? Lionhead Pond, water quality testing results, John.
Yeah, got a notification from Chris Gobler that there's very high reading of blue-green algae in Swan Pond. That's the pond closest to Creek, the closest of the 2 ponds in the Lionhead Association. And the reading was 4 times the state standard, just so that was 100.7 micrograms per liter. And that pond, Wainscott Pond, and one other pond on Long Island got very high readings. And just to compare, I know we all know how high Wainscott Pond is, what a problem it's been with blue-green algae. So the Swan Pond reading was at 100.7 micrograms per liter. Wainscott Pond was 81.5 micrograms per liter. So Swan Pond was quite high. However, Lionhead Pond, the other pond in the association, was free of blue-green algae. It's wild usually.
How far apart are they?
Quarter mile, maybe.
It's very similar in character.
Right.
Well, I went down, we decided to make signs and post signs. And then hereafter, the association can be responsible for moving and posting signs if necessary. Made an extra set for them in case Lionhead Pond deteriorates. But I went down and looked at both ponds when I posted Swan Pond. And Swan Pond was pretty low. The water level was low, was coated with macroalgae. And Lionhead Pond was free of macroalgae and looked very
I think
full.
that had maybe washed over.
It didn't wash over. It's quite a dune between the
All right.
bay and the pond. there were birds, there were actually birds living in, seemed to be feeding in,
Enjoying.
flying around and landing in the pond. So I don't know if the birds are immune to blue-green algae, or the sampling was, the high reading was a localized sampling, maybe. So I'm not sure. I didn't really get an answer on why the birds didn't seem to be affected by such a high blue-green algae count. Well, just to follow up on that, the association was very concerned, or the people we've been communicating with in the association were very concerned about this development and reaching out to Dr. Gobler to put together a more comprehensive study of why this is happening and how it may be possibly addressed. So talk to them, and they're aware that, we need to be part of that process and permit it, and they're fine with that. So that's where we are.
Matt, anybody on the phones?
You have 0 callers. Thank you.
Thank you. Move on to administrative payment of the bills. Seacoast Enterprises, $150.12. East Hampton Marina, $462.03. Gas for the pump out boat. Chris Hamilton, $2,500 for kayak rack repair and build. Staples, $135.73 and $12.49. Riverhead Building Supply, $317.21 for these materials for the kayak racks. Optimum, $146.97. And Montauk Marine Basin, $409.05. Motion to pay the bills.
Make a motion to pay the bills.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Minutes, we have minutes from the meeting of May 8th, 2023, and the meeting of May 22nd. They're available for review.
I have not received those yet. Allison, did you send them out and I've just missed it? Okay, I'll go look. I would also like to say congratulations to Tim Garneau for your a certificate of accomplishment in the town. You're being honored for all the work that you're doing, and I did post it on our website. I sent it out, so I hope you see it, but congratulations, Tim, and thank you.
Hey, Tim.
Hey, Francis, can I do a little report on the
Please.
pump out boats?
Yeah.
Like, just being that we got some bills for our pump out.
We're gonna table the minutes for the.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Being that we are paying some bills related to pump out boats, you may all recall a few months ago, we approved, I think, roughly 15 grand in spare parts materials. Well, we weren't very far into the season. Our new head operator, Doug Banfield, called me that one of the boats, the pump wasn't working. So like an Indy pit crew, we were able to just swap out the pump. We had the rebuild kit. Doug rebuilt the old pump. We've got it back. If something else goes down, we still have a brand new pump and a rebuilt pump. We've had some challenges related to Montauk this year. There's no electric at the pump out site. So we're working off a generator right now, which
That's because of construction.
due to construction, I broke one of my ribs yesterday bringing fuel down there.
Jeez.
Lugging 5-gallon jerry jugs, which, by the way, guys, I charged 2 jerry jugs to the trustees. And Tim Treadwell agreed to pay for the fuel. So we're sharing the costs here.
Okay.
But it's working well.
That's great. It's a good idea. Your idea to get the 2 pumps.
No, it's working nice. We got spare parts, and actually Allison and Doug ordered flow meters. They've been installed, I think, on both boats, just on the one.
It's just on the Montauk boat
Okay.
right now, so Doug is letting it be tested by him for about 2 weeks before he installs
Okay.
on the.
But either way, we're moving along and becoming more, more disciplined in terms of documenting what kind of quantities and what we're doing.
So are all three in the water?
No, just two. No, we only run 2 boats. The other boat's still sitting dry in case we need it.
So 1 in 3 Mile, 1 in Montauk?
Yes.
And then what about Shelter Island? Was there talk about?
They talked to us and nothing really
Follow through.
kind of ever
Okay.
came of that. So
What was that? Did they wanted us to go to Cockles or something?
they wanted us to go over to Cockles. They were gonna pay fuel. They were gonna basically try and provide us with a offload site over there and some sort of a daily rental. And so our boat, discussions never really got to.
How old was the pump that broke?
1 year old. What actually happened is it seemed like a piece on the flapper valve, it was like a metal piece, just broke off from the flapper. And, when it took off, we never found it. Found this one piece and we couldn't find.
How are we staff-wise?
We're still looking for a part-timer to fill days off. I did have somebody call me today about it that had worked for us in the past, but it's one of those things. The individual said, well, I can't be expected to climb up and back and forth onto boats, off boats. That's really part of it. That's really part of the job. We can't really avoid that. I have somebody else that I am talking to that recently retired, that if they're willing to come aboard, they'll bring a lot of skill. So, if anybody, Dave, once you get out of school, if you want to step in and be a boat operator, you can be all you can be.
Okay, thanks.
We are very fortunate. Savannah did set us up. The guy that's working with us right now, Doug, has been a godsend because he's mechanically inclined, he's considerate, he's very communicative. We basically are in communication every day. So it's all nice.
People would do that in the boat after.
She did right. She did us right.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
She sure did. Anybody have anything else?
Yeah, I just had a quick notice. I think we all should have gotten this email from Barry Volson, Conic Estuary, but there's going to be a Zoom meeting on the Napeague Harbor Circulation Enhancement Project on the 20th, next Wednesday, from 12 to 1:30.
Wednesday's the 21st, Tuesday's the 20th. It's not Tuesday or Wednesday.
6:20.
If it's Tuesday, I wouldn't be able to make that.
Did you get the notice?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, Tuesday. And I hope everybody can, maybe you can even just listen in. If you plug in your phone and put your earplugs in.
Yeah.
Be nice to know.
What time's the meeting?
12.
It's 5 o'clock.
So this will be kind of the meeting that
Actually, you
you
know
ask
what?
the question, how much is this thing gonna cost?
No, actually, no, it won't be. I'll be just getting here.
So, and also, the Marine Patrol is giving a safe boating course at the library also on the 20th at 5 o'clock. And you can look at the library website to sign up for it. It might be pretty popular, actually, between this morning and this afternoon. All the places in the meeting were filled. There is a waiting list, so if anybody's interested in getting a safe boating certificate, contact the library or Marine Patrol about the details.
Which library?
East Hampton Library.
Okay.
John, I'd like to add that to our website, so it's on the library.
Yeah, but Susan, if it's already filled, maybe
Well,
actually,
there may be other classes coming up, no?
They may be, if it's so popular, I'm not sure. I can forward you the library notice.
You know the age requirements for that?
you should say 12.
It says-
That's when I
I
took
think
them
it's
on.
at 10, actually.
Oh, really?
I think that's who probably signed up. All the parents signed their kids up so they could terrorize the harbor.
So you could be like Kramer at karate camp.
Anybody else?
What was that date? June what?
20th.
Tuesday. Okay. That's cool. Yeah.
Motion to close.
The motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?